By the end of this video, I'm going to give you a complete rundown of how I built a business in the last 2.5 years from zero to over 200,000 leads in that time and a couple of $1 million in revenue. You see, I've been writing about this in my newsletter recently, and this particular article has got a lot of attention. A lot of people were reaching out to me saying how inspiring it was, and I thought I'd go ahead and record a video that would help you as well. So this will be really insightful if you are a coach, consultant, speaker, online educator, online business owner, those types of people who builds online funnels and online events and workshops for their particular business. You see, before this, I was creating YouTube videos quite a lot, but in a very different way. I was living in a van for a little while, and then COVID happened and travel just became that little bit harder. I decided to move in with a really good friend, and we decided to launch some businesses, and this was the one that kind of just took off. And it took off really quickly once we started getting it going. We're at a point now where I am beginning to template most of that business using GPTs and AI and that type of stuff. And that was the whole point of starting the newsletter, is to share with people how we're actually building our business and then how we're templating it so that we can be more productive, lower our hard costs in terms of all the people that we have to hire, and ultimately, hopefully make a little bit more money. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to screen share the newsletter. Let's dive in. For the last 9 years, I've built so many different businesses and used so many different tools to build those businesses that I've literally wasted probably an entire year of my life just trialing different types of tools. The tools that we have today makes building online businesses so incredibly easy that there's never been a better time to actually begin building businesses. But it also means there's never been a harder and more challenging and competitive time to be building those businesses as well. One particular tool that I'm beginning to enjoy is Beehive, which is what I'm creating these newsletters in. And this is the article here. So over 200,000 virtual event attendees in 2 years and plus millions in revenue. So I've been building businesses for 9 years now, and I've never been good at social media whatsoever. I am trying to change that this year, but so many people concentrate on social media as if it's the be all and end all to build a successful business. But in many cases, it's not. Email marketing is one of those trends that has been around for a long time, and it still continues to be one of the best ways to build business. So that's what we did. And we really just focused on how can we find the people that would buy our particular products and get in front of them as often as possible. And you can do that in many ways, but the easiest way is to build funnels and create offers of things that people want, and then use different advertising platforms like Meta, Google, Taboola, TikTok. I've even bought newsletter drops with different newsletter brands out there, and get as many people into that funnel as possible and then calculate your ROI from there. So that's basically what we did. The whole point of this is to really focus on the fundamentals. And there are 3 fundamentals that I believe for these types of businesses that are the most important. The number one is to focus on your offer. If you can create a really great offer, then everything else becomes so much easier. Next, you want to make sure you're getting people in front of that offer as much as possible, which is what we call lead generation. And as you begin to implement those 2 steps, you'll start to then find out what your messaging and your positioning in the market is. One of the worst pieces of advice that I see business coaches give all the time is they tell people to find what you love and then create a business around that. Now that's fine if the thing that you love is also what tons of other people love as well, so you always have customers. But if you niche in so far that into a particular thing that people don't want, then nobody's ever going to buy, and you're just going to be completely wasting your time creating content on things that people don't care about. The market is what determines the product. So if you can listen to the market and then adapt your products and services to fit the market, that's always going to be the best way to do it. Now, of course, there's always outliers, people online that tell you, oh, it's so much easier, just do these types of things. And if they rave about organic traffic, that it's still easy to make that happen, I would proceed with caution. There is a small amount of people and personalities that do really well with organic social media, but they are the anomaly. Most people, and I'm definitely talking about myself here, are not the types of people that are loud and aggressive and controversial enough to get so much attention onto their business organically that we have to really learn the fundamentals and stick to them and become really good at them. If we can learn the fundamentals, then we can still build great businesses without having to be somebody else in our personalities. So here's a couple of really interesting points that I want to really get across to you. There's an old adage in marketing that people need to see your brand 7 times before they take action and buy something from you. In 2011, Google released a study showing that on average, a prospect needs about 7 hours of exposure to your brand across 11 different touch points and in 4 various locations before they're ready to become a client. It's called the 7-11-4 rule. Nowadays, I would say it's probably likely even more. So going back to social media, if we're only posting short pieces of content on social media to get those 7 hours and 11 different touch points, it's going to take ages. Whereas if we can get them into funnels, we can begin to put them through different types of content easily in the way that they prefer, whether that's reading, listening, or watching. And we can create extended formats like a podcast or a YouTube video to get them into our world and get them engaging into who we are, what we do, and why our solution is going to be the right solution for them. The other big thing that I hear from a lot of my friends who are coaches, consultants, speakers is that nobody's engaging on their content. And it means that either your content sucks, I'm sorry to say, or you're posting in the wrong location. You're posting somewhere where it's convenient to you, like on Facebook. But the chances are that most people that you have on your Facebook page, your friends and family, are not going to be your clients as well. So you actually need to go out and find the people where they are already at, whether that's maybe in groups or at events, and you need to network with them that way. Or the Meta ads platform or any other ad platform is the fastest way to reach any type of group that you want to reach these days. So many times people will perceive running ads as a costly event to try and find your audience. But I think about it in this formula. You can either pay in money or you can pay in time. And there's way too many people paying in time of tens of thousands of dollars of their hours trying to grow organically when they could spend $100 on Meta ads, for example, and find out immediately whether what they have to offer and what they have to sell is viable for their market or not. Something to think about. And the third point that I want to make, and this is the role that I've played most of my life, is the role of the curator. So think of Oprah, right? She isn't an expert at anything, but she is more well-known, more powerful, probably even richer than most of her guests that she's had on her show. And she's just been the curator, bringing all of those people into her platform to give them more exposure to an audience. That is the curator role. And for some of you out there, myself included, being the curator of your industry may be the better play for you, rather than trying to position yourself as an expert immediately, which is so competitive these days. But there's not a lot of people curating a lot of great content and disseminating that content out there to save people time to get to the best stuff. Maybe that's the role that you need to play. Cool. So let's dive into the 3 steps that we took to test, optimize, and then scale our business in that 2 years. And the first part is the test. And people always ask, Mitch, why are you building a business about pets? Do you love pets? Well, I do love pets, and I'd love to have a big property one day with all the different types of pets, from cats and dogs to cows to goats and everything in between. But ultimately, and I say this from a complete business perspective, we were looking for a mass market. So mass market is those types of things that appeal to everybody. Health, wealth, relationships, and pets kind of fall in there as well. We wanted a market that we could easily target with Facebook ads so that we could scale quickly. We tried selling supplements initially, and we were actually doing okay in hindsight. We didn't know how much money we should be spending to acquire a customer, and we were actually right on the exact same point as all of the biggest brands in the world. But there was one big problem, and this is a big problem that I see with every single e-commerce brand that is trying to start today. We didn't have the capital to scale to get market share and then to begin creating profit. Trying to scale an e-commerce brand that has physical products these days is so hard to do unless you have hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars of capital behind you, because most of the time you need to lose money on the first sale to acquire that customer, and then it's the sales down the track that will actually begin to make you profit. So you may need to actually float a loss for 6 to 12 months before you come into profit, and we didn't have that sort of capital, and we didn't want to raise money. So we kind of had to pivot the business into online education. Why? Because there's no delivery cost for online education. It's also my background. I've done online education for my entire career. So we noticed a gap in the market for holistic pet care education. We decided to give it a go. I just did the first summit. So I interviewed 18 vets and pet experts for the first summit just to see if it would work. We did this very quickly. We did it within 6 weeks. We just created an MVP, or minimal viable product. So we didn't optimize all of the things that we could do. We just wanted to get it out there to see what would happen when we put it into the market. We spent about $20,000 on Meta ads. By the end of the summit, we made $19,000 back. And while we had a $1,000 loss, and while it still created us 6 weeks to create, we considered this to be a win because, like I said, we didn't optimize anything. We saw potential of all of the different things that we could add in order to begin creating something that would be profitable. That $20,000 also built us an email list of 7,000 pet owners that we could now sell other stuff to. So while the test did lose money, we decided to say that this test was in fact a winner. And then we decided to double down on this strategy. And this is such an important point for all of the newbies out there because I've wasted so much of my time creating products that people didn't want. Before you begin to create a product, make sure you sell that product to somebody first. If you don't, then you can spend weeks or months creating a product, you put it out into the market, and then nobody buys, which means you've just wasted months of your life. Whereas the better way to do it is to create a really good offer, market that offer to people, get them to buy. And once they've bought in, then you tell them that this program now starts in a week's time and we're going to create the program. You're going to need to help me create the program so that we can make it the best one possible for you, for the audience. That is the only way we should be building online education businesses. We should not be building anything from scratch, even if you're an experienced business owner. So I am going to dive into more testing stuff later in my email newsletter. If you're not signed up for it yet, there'll be a link down below and you can read this article, and then you can also make sure you get all the future updates as well. So phase 2 was the time now for us to optimize and scale. And ultimately, business just comes down to a numbers game. And the goal of that numbers game is to earn more money than you spent. All of the biggest brands in the world are the ones that have built a business that has allowed them to spend more money than their competitors to acquire a customer while still creating a profit. That is the goal. It's a mathematical equation. So while the creativity of creating something new, delivering a great product, delivering a great experience is really important, the mathematical component of it as well, of building a business, the business structure, has the exact same amount of importance. Otherwise, you don't have a business, you just have a hobby that's probably going to cost you money. And that is one of the biggest challenges that I see with people who are stuck at, less than $100,000 a year, is they don't understand it's a mathematical equation. They might build up an organic audience for a little while and then they'll do a big launch. They will then shout from the rooftops about how much money they made for that particular month, but then they'll proceed to spend the next 6 to 12 months making virtually no money at all. And the reason is because they've not thought about it mathematically. They've scooped all of the low-hanging fruit from their audience that will buy from them, and those types of people will continue to buy from them maybe once a year, once every 2 years, but they don't spend the money that they've just made to continue to build that top of funnel. So you always want to be making sure that there are new people coming into your world, whether that's creating tons of content and getting those views organically, or whether that's running ads to new people all of the time to get them used to your brand. There's only a small percentage of people that are going to buy from you in your audience, and an even smaller amount of those people who are going to buy in the first 30 days. Most of the people in your audience are going to buy 6, 12, 18 months from when they begin to get to know you. So you have to make sure you're always bringing in those new people. And if they do buy every 6, 12, 18 months, then you need to make sure you're filling those gaps for in between as well. So here's how we did it. Firstly, we looked at the numbers like this. We calculated the conversion rate from our online summit registrations to a sale. We were converting about 5% of the people who came into the summit into the premium pass. So now we determine how much each of those people were spending. So determine the average spending per customer. In our case, they were spending $50. So 5 customers out of 100 would spend $50. That means if we did the math, so 5 times $50 is $250. And then I divide that by that $250 by 100, and that gives us $2.50 per lead. For every lead that comes through the door, we are generating $2.50 in revenue. So mathematically, all that we need to do now is to go out and find leads for less than $2.50. If we do that, we're going to break even, or if we can do it better, then we're going to generate a profit. It's as simple as that. But the other things that we were then considering is that's just for the summit. What else can we do? So we could implement a bump offer at the checkout so people spend more, and that might increase our lead value. We could create an upsell. So when people check out, they have an opportunity to buy something else. That would then also increase our order value. But then we could have a program after the summit, some type of online course, a workshop, something that people from the summit could then buy. And that's going to increase our order value or our lifetime value again, even further. But that's not all. We don't have to stop there. I could see that we were building an email list quite quickly with these types of leads. Leads were fairly cheap. And I knew within 6 months' time, we're going to have a significant size email list as well. So we could begin getting sponsors to sponsor our events and to sponsor our email newsletter. And that again increases our lifetime value of the customer, which then, going back to the beginning, means we can spend more if we wish, or we can just take that money off the top as profit. Here's one lesson that I really want you to internalize. Your database, the people that you are bringing into your world, the database that you own through email and SMS marketing is the most valuable asset that you can build up in your business. You don't have to rely on the algorithm gods and wondering if people are going to cancel you. You own those particular types of people. And as long as you're backing it up all the time, if someone, even if your email marketing service cancels, you can just move to another one. Nobody would be the wiser. Building that database is absolutely critical for success long term. Then we got to phase 3, which is scale. So now that we've optimized it, we've added in all of our upsells, workshops, we're talking to sponsors, we can now begin to scale. And scaling is not just bringing more people into the business, although that is part of it, but it is also now thinking strategically like a business owner. So who are the personnel that we need to bring into our team in order to make sure that we can fulfill on our goals? What sort of partners do we need that is going to bring more credibility to our business? With the aim of selling one day, how can we make sure that myself wasn't going to be the face of this business? And how could I bring in other people that would also want to be a part of this mission in a way that is also valuable for them? So we figured out all of those things, and we decided that bringing in other pet experts in the industry who weren't that great at doing their own marketing to be the hosts of our brand's summits and then also all of our workshops as well. In return, we would give them leads, we would give them a percentage of revenue, and that would be the way that we would scale. The first person said yes, we executed pretty well. And then from that point on, for the next entire year, we had a brand new summit every single month with a brand new host, which meant that the content didn't rely on me having to show up. So we could move faster. We could handle more tasks and projects at a time. We just needed to make sure we had the right team to handle the amount of work. So this meticulous planning, that's what led to $1 million run rate within 6 months. By month 6, I think we did about 120K in revenue. A few months later, we did a 220K month, and we just continued to scale up. Over the time, we were always continuing to iterate and optimize. We tried online courses after the workshops, weren't doing so great. We tried a membership after the workshops, wasn't doing so great. We tried doing live workshops. They started to work better. So then we tested, okay, should we do a webinar into the live workshop? Okay. Should we do a webinar phone call into the workshop? Worked okay as well. Should we do a webinar into a low ticket workshop so we don't have to be on the phones? That worked even better. So we continued to optimize and iterate to find what was going to work for us as a business, as the business owners. So we even decided to take a little bit of a hit in terms of revenue when we were selling over the phone and took away the phone calls that was taking up a lot of our time and just focused on doing online sales instead. So we weren't making as much revenue, but we were still hopefully going to make the same amount of profit, which many times we did, sometimes we didn't. But anyway, that's the way it goes. So now our current funnel strategy looks like this. We do a virtual summit for lead gen with one of our hosts. They will then do a webinar that leads into a 1 or 2 day live workshop that they host. The workshops will go for about 3 or 4 hours each day. This particular 3-step funnel has been working well for us now. Online courses are pretty much dead in 2024, unless they are really low cost courses, $20, $30. So this particular article has got a lot of attention since I wrote it. And the reason why is because while we got a lot of momentum in the initial days, we're now trying to build this business in a way that allows a couple of virtual assistants from the Philippines to do most of the work so that we can begin to move into other niches as well. It's an exciting time. AI could not do a lot of these tasks for us up until the last couple of months. Sure, the first release of ChatGPT was exciting, but it wasn't really useful for high quality business work, but we are getting there now. I would love for you to follow this channel and follow along on the journey. What's coming up next is a 20 GPTs in 20 days challenge, where I'm looking at, is it really possible to use a lot of these new GPTs in our business in the right ways that are high quality? So follow along and make sure you engage in that as well, so I can save you time, effort, and energy in the long run, and you can just use the things that actually work and forget about the ones that don't. Remember, there is a lot of hype in the AI world right now, and we don't want to get caught up into that hype. It can get overwhelming, and we want to make sure that the things we do are producing high quality. We don't want to look like everybody else. So if you are interested in those types of things, follow along, check for the playlist coming up on the GPT challenge, and I'll see you there.